Mr. St. Omer and Ms. Lewis is on her way. If you'll take roll for us, please.
Ms. Clinkscales?
Present.
Mr. Gaines?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Good evening and welcome to our 2018 Spirit of Excellence Awards segment. This is always a special time where we get to recognize the outstanding students and other people in our district. Tonight is truly special. We are honoring presenting, if you will, four different recognitions. And I would first like to start by turning it over to Mr. Gaines for, I think, a very special announcement this evening.
Good evening. Joseph Henry White was an outstanding basketball player at Vashon and McKinley High Schools. He was a two-time All-American at the University of Kansas, Jayhawk country, and won a gold medal with the U.S. men's basketball team during the 1968 Summer Olympics. As a professional, he is best known for his 10 years with the NBA's Boston Celtics, where he led the team to 2 NBA championships and set a franchise record of 488 consecutive games played. I'd also like to add to this, in one of the years that the Celtics won the NBA championship, JoJo was the most valuable player in that tournament. Mr. White was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2015. He passed away in January 2018, but his integrity, hard work, talent, drive, and legacy lives on. At this time, I'd like for Mr. White's niece, Sandra Collier, to come forward to speak. Ms. Collier.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the school board. I'd especially like to thank Mr. Gaines for recognizing the great achievements of my uncle. And so I know many of you, some of you were probably not even in school or very young when he was a part of the Public High League. But he very much loves St. Louis, very much. He still has relatives here, and I'm hopeful that we can build some good relationships and begin to be a part of the educational and scholarship programs that will be coming out soon. So hopefully we'll have a foundation set up, and again, I look forward to this fall where they'll be naming the gym after JoJo White at McKinley High. So I'm hoping to have something celebrating that, and hopefully I'll see some of you all there. So thank you.
Front page. Could each of you state your relationship to JoJo?
Sure. My name is LaVonda White, and Uncle JoJo, that's my great uncle.
Great uncle.
So, my name is Sandra Collier, and that is my bestest, my great uncle.
My name is Adeline Foster, and that's my baby girl.
This is Michael.
Thank you. Next we will have, coming from the city of St. Louis, my favorite alderwoman, Miss Marlene Davis, who will give a proclamation from the city of St. Louis in honor of Ms. Davis.
Good evening, everyone. It really is an exciting opportunity for me to stand here, share with you that we want to make sure that he is recognized as contributing to the city of St. Louis, and not only as an athlete, because we knew him, okay? And this was a young man who knew what it meant to be right. You see, a lot of our young people, they want to have one foot here and one foot over there in that wrong direction and think it's going to be okay. It won't be. You got to have both feet in the right direction, and that takes you a long way. So we know that during that time, how we cared for our children was a little bit different than today. You see, every other opportunity for someone else to determine who you are and how you should act and what you should wear and what you should think is abusive and is intruding upon the ability for you to be the best that you can be. Know that every day of your life. But to know that this young man went as far as you could really go in that arena. See, there are a lot of young people who graduate, they're star players. They don't even make it to the minor leagues as far as we're concerned. Some of them go overseas to play, but he managed to play in all of the positions or places that you could play basketball. And so we have a lot to honor here. And the fact that he came from a St. Louis public school, you see, that's another big plus. Big plus, big plus. The city of St. Louis has the opportunity to honor individuals who have contributed to our city. It is called a resolution. For many of you who do not understand what that means, that we do vote on it. It is a legislative matter. It is then put in the archives of the city of St. Louis forever. So, if someone 200 years from now came along and they wanted to know the history of JoJo, all they have to do is to go to the archives of the city of St. Louis. It shall be there. It will never leave. Know that. So it's not just a document that someone wrote and you can put it on a wall or you can store it away and preferably it will be moved on in the next generation and the next. This is permanent. Our body has acknowledged his accomplishments. Most especially, we mentioned the fact that the Mckinley High gymnasium will be named in his honor. And we listed every accomplishment along the way. So I say to you on behalf of the city of St. Louis that we honor your family with this resolution. We thank JoJo again, even in his absence, because you know, you say thank you before and after, because there's a reason to remember. There's a reason to give those thoughts, those accomplishments to the next generation so that they can dream and it can inspire. So thank you very much.
You know, this week as we're watching the NBA Finals, one of the things that's constantly mentioned of LeBron James is the fact that he is one of the greatest players for playing with others. Teamwork, always important to what he does. JoJo learned the game, as we say, the right way. Jody Bailey had a nickname for every player and gave JoJo his nickname. In the 1962 to 63 season, Vashon went undefeated in the St. Louis Public League and won the championship. That team only lost 2 games the entire season. One early in the year to Lincoln in East St. Louis, and the second in the Missouri State quarterfinals to Kansas City Central. This, I believe, was the first public high league team after integration to go undefeated in the public high league. I hope you heard what I just said.
Come on now.
Integration in this community, in this country, was started in 1954. From 1954 to 62, there had been no team in this public high league that had been undefeated onto Vashon's team in that year. This was a starting five for that team, including nicknames: Richard Bones Davison, Robert Sleepy Thomas, Willie Razorblades Jenkins, Garland Crisco Goodwin, Joseph JoJo White, and their sixth man, Dwayne Chico Hill. Jenkins, at maybe 6'5", would have been the tallest player on the team. They won with smarts, ball movement, teamwork, and great defense. I'm going to read you something about Dwayne Hill, who was JoJo's teammate and someone who now resides in Stamford, Connecticut. And when JoJo first got sick, I called Dwayne to let him know. He attempted to get to Boston to meet with him. But so you begin to understand some of, at least two of his teammates. In 1994, with his partners, Mr. Hill led the buyout of Equico from the Equitable and renamed the firm TSG Ventures, LP. The success of TSG Ventures provided the platform for the creation of TSG Capital Group, a private equity investment firm that through a series of funds raised $750 million to invest as sponsor and lead investors in leveraged buyouts and growth financing for middle market companies. Dwayne was a co-founder and served for several years as a managing partner. What needs to be understood: this was the largest African-American owned investment firm in this nation. And we're talking about $750 million, not last year. This was 15 years ago. Dwayne has served on the board of directors of numerous private companies. He was previously a director of the National Association of Small Business Investment Companies and is a former chairman of the National Association of Investment Companies. He is currently a director and chairman of the Nominating and Governance Committee of the Hartford Mutual Fund Companies, and I hope you have heard the name Hartford. I'm going to speak for a moment about JoJo in college, and something that a lot of people in this community never knew. University of Kansas, again, a St. Louis connection. In 1969, David was drafted in the NBA fourth round by the Chicago Bulls. David played 2 years with the Harlem Globetrotters and is now representative of the National Institute of Health and the National Library of Medicine in Washington, D.C., where he lectures throughout this nation on illnesses that affect minority communities. You can imagine a gentleman that's 6'11" with a fur coat on in Alaska. I have pictures of it. It's quite a sight. Vashon High School has a Hall of Fame. And although JoJo did not graduate from Vashon, I will be submitting his name along with these two teammates of his for consideration for induction into the Vashon Hall of Fame for the next induction ceremony, which will occur next spring. Because he was outstanding, at McKinley. From a high school standpoint, it started at Vashon, and he was an outstanding citizen in addition to basketball player at both. And I'm proud to call him a lifelong friend of mine, which he was until the last few years of his life. And I'd like to say for the family, we invited JoJo back here about 4 years ago, and I'm sure he met with you, to speak at the halftime of a football game, and as most salespeople are, to do a book signing. And we had a wonderful time talking with him. And you would know that he was having health problems at that time. But he was so happy to see you and to be back in St. Louis. So you have a great deal to be proud of. This school system and this city, and actually this country, has a great deal to be proud of. One of the signature men in sports anywhere in the world. People have said people scored more points than JoJo scored. Of course they did, and always will be people who score a lot of points. But this man did something that the country needs to deal with. He was a team player. When he passed, the white members of the Celtics, which at the time he went there was considered one of the most racially diverse cities in the United States, were all at his ceremony and sounding like me, because he was an outstanding ambassador for goodwill. You miss him, we miss him.
Mr. Gaines, I'd like to personally thank you for initiating and leading this entire effort. Because in taking the steps that you did, the proclamations from the city, the renaming of the gym, you have forever connected this school system to JoJo White. And I think you deserve a lot of credit for leading that entire effort. Thank you. So to the family, there's probably some more photo ops to come. Meredith may lead you out if you would like, and there's probably, if you might even be joined by our illustrious alderwoman who is here to make presentations on behalf of the city.